Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to the KF&JF podcast. I'm so happy to be returning with one of our guests that we've had before that you guys have seen out there, and we're hoping to get more information from her today. And looking forward to this new session with her, part two, basically today. And I am just proud that she's taken the time out today to come back and give us more information about what she do. And so I'm going to pass it over to my co-host right now, Razak.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Razak. I'm the CEO and founder of United Minority Business Ventures. My purpose is to assist with the creative process and maintenance of your business. We do this by forming the opportunities to communicate and collaborate with your followers and subscribers or other business owners. We use a wide range of networking tools and methods to achieve results. We assist in the ideas associated with social media marketing, building your marketing profile or creating your marketing strategy, building your financial profile for your business. We also like to assist in branding your product or merchandise. We may also determine what licenses are needed to operate your business. And if you're owning a domain or buying into pre existing sites that host your page, we also like to assist by managing your website by selecting posts that create subscriptions, comments, and likes, or by generating comments on other individual business sites or page that create a dialogue of conversation directed towards your page. We also like to help navigate through the thousands of companies asking for money when there's free companies out there. It's just a matter of starting from the ground level or having pre-existing funds to buy into something flashier. And Sylvia, it's also a pleasure to have you on again. And
Mhm.
as I look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad to thank you again for the invite for being here for part two.
Thank you,
And
Razak.
so today, reintroduce myself, I'm the director of software engineering at Cubic Defense. And today I want to share a little bit about Cubic and what my role has been at the company. So let's take a minute and take a look. So one of the things I find really exciting about Cubic is I had the opportunity to do design work. As I mentioned earlier, being a military brat, I've kind of chosen companies that build things to make our military better. So today, I'd like to share with you a little bit of what I do at Cubic. What we do is we build communication links where you'll see our aircraft, whether they're manned or unmanned, they can communicate to ships that are out in the waters. They can communicate to ground troops that are on the ground. And of course, they can communicate to other aircraft that are in the sky. So we're trying to create that network where we can open up lines of communication. We have, high-speed video data that's being captured or data that needs to be going from one platform to the other. So we provide that pipe, as we call it, or the data link to make sure that communication occurs. So some of the applications, the things that I've worked on since I've been at Cubic, one is with the Air Combat Training Rangeless System. And if you look at the far left, there's a pod that has like a blue stripe going across it. That's actually the training pod that we use where they capture all the exercise for our pilots when they're flying. And just a comparison, if you remember the movie Top Gun, when they were having the air pilots training, that was actually our company's equipment that was in that movie. And once again, it's to train our military so they can do the exercises. And when they come down to the ground, they can do the training so they see how they can perform during the exercise and what they can do to improve themselves next time around. So in that particular application, I was involved in the speech board application. And it's nice to see that your products are used in a system to help our military to be their best. I also was involved with what they call the Multiple Integrated Laser Engagement System, or MILES. This is for training our ground troops. We called it like a sophisticated laser tag, where they have laser detectors on their helmet, as you can see in the soldier in the back. They have a laser system that's on the weapon type, which used to shoot the lasers. We instrument even all the vehicles are part of the exercise. The radio that you see on the far left, this is Miles 2000. I had the opportunity at Cubic to build the first prototype of that design. And I was really excited that we didn't have to add any white wires or make any cuts in the board to make it work. So it was pretty successful. And from that, our company was actually able to win this contract. So you can see a lot of our Marine troops are actually use this equipment, likewise with the Navy. We also, as you saw, we equipped our platforms and our air platform. You'll see this is a manned UAV. And it has in there a dual radio inside of the platform so that it too can communicate to the various assets that are part of the military exercise. And so I had the opportunity to design a board that's also located in this platform communication system. So once again, it's able to see your product out in the field being used. And lastly, I have here another platform communication system. It's a similar board that was used in this assembly. And as noted, it's actually on the aircraft carrier. It's part of the exercise where I said those that are on the sea. And so we provide those data links to make sure that our military can communicate with each other, share the information that's needed in order for them to do what they need to do on their job. And so that kind of concludes some of the various assets, things that I've been involved in. And that's been hardware board design, chip development design. And my field is in hardware engineering, and those are two hardware applications. But presently, I'm actually working with software engineers. And the thing about engineering, if you know how to solve problems, that's what you can use in various disciplines in that area.
Okay. Well, Miss Sylvia,
yes.
In light of war and all that type of stuff, and preparing for it, how does defense spending impact your industry?
Well, the thing about defense spending, they determine how much money is allocated to build these systems, how many assets they want to encrypt on the various platforms. When the threats in the society changes, sometimes the system they thought they need is not what they need right now. So they kind of change their strategy for a different type of application. But defense spending is a big part because it determines how much they will invest into developing assets for our military.
Okay. So, okay, with that and with your design and with your as an engineer, let me see how have the microprocessors evolved from the SOM versus the SOC?
Well, one thing is microprocessors in the earlier days, as we'll say, were very simplistic. You can do a few operations in them. Now it's evolved where we can look at our phones, how they've went from the flip phone that was very simple to now all these smartphones with these microprocessors in it. And with the microprocessors, you're able to do multiple functions with your phone. So likewise, we're able to now get board assemblies that used to be the size of like 12 inches by 12 inches. We can get it down to 3 inches, in diameter, in dimension. And the processor will be able to do more capability than that larger board could do. So technology and microprocessors have evolved, and also not only the chip itself, but they now have a system on a chip. That's what the SoC stands for. Now we've gone from system on a chip to system on a module, or SOM. And then for that application, now you have even more power in a smaller footprint. So we're able to do more capabilities, and we're always trying to make faster and less power. So, with the evolution of technology, we're able to meet those demands.
Okay. I played laser tag back in the day, when they had that out. Man, I liked it to do that every day. So okay, so I seen I watched movies, I watched all the little, army movies they be having out. I got some, somewhat of a military background myself, but at the same time it's like okay, so now we're getting into computers. It's a new age, I guess I should say, or for you, it's and you're in the I guess you're inside the box with all the chips and all these little things
Mhm.
going on. So how does cybersecurity threats impact the required technologies for the future?
That's a very good question, because today, they said cybersecurity is, we're trained to protect our system, and we're not able to eliminate all of the vulnerabilities or challenges to our threats to our system. But what we do is try to minimize them. So, we evaluate where's the system located. It has like double locked doors, double entry. We look at is the system accessible from like an Ethernet or a serial interface, or being somebody can maybe try to plug in and try to steal your design or try to put a virus into your design. So you look at all those vulnerabilities and see that, yes, you need to change your strategy. You can't have that Ethernet or that interface available so that someone can access your system. You don't want to have your system just sitting out where it can be available by, attackers, either friendly or unfriendly. So you have to have different strategies to deal with the different threats that are going on. The good thing is they have agencies that evaluate the threats that are out there, and they provide you with different mechanisms that you can program your software accordingly to avoid some of those threats that can impact your system. So cyber is ever changing today, and that means we have to change our design to meet those challenges.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Um, well, I did a little research,
Okay.
and I know you got a recent reward and all that stuff. So, what was
Mhm.
your role in the Cubics DEI program?
Okay, so that's for our diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion environment. Cubic environment is multicultural. There's many religions, different nationalities, different ways of life. And that's one thing I like about Cubic, that it has an open environment. One of the things that I was involved in is called MANA, and it's one of the employee resource groups. And within that group, it was the African American organization. And what we were training to do was to expose people to the various, um, our culture. And so, what the types of things that we did, that role, I served as the corporate sponsor. So we work with the Black employees, and we developed programs to kind of expose our culture to the community. And that ranged from Black History Month, where we've had guest speakers from the Buffalo Soldiers. We've had speakers that talked about, promoting yourself, being a positive impact in your workforce. We did networking amongst ourselves on, career building and career directions. So we were trying to be a support platform. Even for Juneteenth, we did that celebration. Many people never heard of Juneteenth, and so it was a way of exposing that to the community. And then it's now a national holiday. So it's great to see how we've evolved at that in this country. But also for Black History Month, we've had Allensworth, which is a national park here in California, that was found by Colonel Allensworth, that came out. And my aunt today is actually on that board of directors, where they have open houses twice a year celebrating Allensworth itself in our community. So it's the idea of making the exposure, doing the networking amongst ourselves for our professional development. And we achieved those two milestones. So I was really proud of the activities we were able to do.
Right. Let me ask you this. I like that. I went to a festival before a couple of years back, and they had some
Mhm.
Buffalo Soldiers there. I
Yeah.
mean, they was doing a whole little march stuff. It was I believe, I want to say it was the Winans was there. I think Cece and
Oh.
the brother and the sister, they was doing stuff. I was doing some security for them, and
Hmm.
it was a lot of fun. I got to meet them all and do all that stuff. So I like I indulge in a lot of things that have to do with the Black community, and I like the
Mhm.
how your the DEI program is going on. Reading up on some of that stuff, trying to get a little background on what's going on, and
Mhm.
so it's like okay, so we have this question. This is how is risk management framework impacting your designs, and how was the path that you took to your first manager position?
Well, if we can take a minute, I have another presentation that kind of talks a little bit more about that cybersecurity and risk management framework. So if we can take a second and transition there. Well, you ask about RMF, and it's called Risk Management Framework. And one of the things about risk management framework, it's a design so that you can look at the cyber attacks that are happening in your environment, your workplace, or wherever your system is actually being delivered. And as I mentioned about cybersecurity, you have to determine how much risk you're willing to accept. Can you handle just low risk? Can you handle high risk or medium risk? Because you can't fix everything, but you can minimize the impact that the different vulnerabilities or threats against your system. So you have to determine what is feasible. And the whole thing about cybersecurity, the risk management framework, like I said, you don't want to fix everything because sometimes you'll, what they call, develop a hardened system, or we would say it's like bulletproof, you can't attack it. But if it's too constraint, there's a possibility your system doesn't work. So then you have to be able to accept some risks in your system and minimize some of that bulletproof or hardening functionality. So this is more the specifics of that risk management framework. It's basically a 7 steps plan. And it's something where when you start in a design of your system, you want to think about the risk, understand what does your environment look like. And then you want to analyze what are those risks that you can and cannot handle. Which ones do you actually want to mitigate in your system? And lastly, the biggest thing about risk management framework that's important is that it's a continuous process. It's not just a one-shot deal because, as we know, threats are ever changing in today's world. And so with that being in mind, we have to continuously monitor our system to determine, is there something that I need to change so that I can protect against that future threat? So that just lets you know that it's a continuous process. And so you want to monitor your system to make sure that everything you have is secure. And so you can look at, like we were talking about, the infrastructures that Christopher Wray, the FBI, he had mentioned how they stopped these Chinese hackers from actually causing havoc to our infrastructure. And what they noted was the systems that they had, they weren't receiving the security updates any longer. But if they were able to instrument more of this risk management framework, that continuous monitoring, they would have noticed that, hey, I'm not getting those security updates, so we need to do something different to protect our system. We need to upgrade our equipment. We need to add in more provisions so that we are actually protecting our system. So that's what the risk management framework will help you identify the vulnerabilities or the weaknesses in your system. But I think you were also asking me another question about me in management selection or making the management choice.
Yes. Well, what was your path in your first managerial position?
Okay. Well, I started off at Cubic as I was hired on as a systems engineer. However, they needed some people to do hardware design. So I actually did some hardware design work. And from there, in my group, my manager decided he was going to leave the company. And so I applied for that position. And I recall when I walked into the interview room, the gentleman, which I knew all of them, had noted, they're like, Sylvia, why are you here? And I said, well, this is the place for the interview for the managerial position. And had the interview, went well. And that's when I got my first position in management. So I was there, the hardware manager. Then I became, I called the digital hardware manager. And then I became with the hardware and the RF engineering hardware manager. Then it became the software and the hardware engineer manager and the VHDL manager. So I kind of moved around in different management in different areas. So what has evolved to today is now from that manager entry level position, I migrated up to senior manager and presently today director of software and cybersecurity. So that's what my path was in management.
Okay. I got about two more questions for you, and I'm going to pass it over here to Keith. The first one is that what has been the role of a mentor in your career for you?
I would say, I didn't actually seek out the mentor. I think they found me, which is kind of unique. They saw the potential in what I had and what I can contribute to the company. So I would say my value added was them actually encouraging me in my career path. When they saw opportunities, managerial opportunities, they would come to me and say, Sylvia, I think you should apply for this. They would actually have words with the people that are opening the position to, say how I'm definitely interested in that position. So they would be a positive advocate for me. And they just basically provided positive feedback and helping me in making choices in my career path. So that's how the mentors to me made a difference. And what I've done on the flip side and being mentors to the other new engineers that come into Cubic, some of the women engineers, I really encourage them to step up. I encourage them, for the educational, making sure they have opportunities to learn various aspects of design. As a manager, I like to listen and to, help them with their career path. That's kind of the role that I see myself serving in as a manager. It's great seeing the people that I hired in as interns, that they're now chief engineers or they're directors themselves. So that's a rewarding feeling knowing that you made it, you're part of that impact in life.
Right. Yes, and you're making a major impact. Your man, your leadership is I know maybe Keith will get into it when he asks his questions about a lot of your awards and those achievements that you have had. And
Mm-hmm.
my last thing I wanted to ask you
Yes.
was what is the value of continued education in technology when it comes to engineering and as a director and running the program?
One thing I say about technology, it does not stay the same. It's ever changing. Um, there's new technology that evolves, or even the area that you're working in has evolved. So change is what is the most consistent thing I would say about technology. And so with that change, that means you have to have an open mind to receive that information. Don't get stuck back in time thinking, oh, that's how we used to do it. But look at, okay, this is how we used to do it, but how can we move forward, be more efficient, more effective in what we're trying to achieve? And just learning new technology is exciting all by itself. Just looking at what has evolved over time, you can see products like we talk about the flip phone, and what we have today is the smartphone, and all these technologies in the medical fields, how you can now read your blood sugars by, the things that you put on your arm and read it on your phone. So it's ever changing, it's ever evolving. It's exciting to see how far we've come from, and just imagine how far we'll be going in the next 20 years.
That brings me to a question. I'm glad you said that real quick. It's not necessarily
Okay.
a question, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
I in reference to movies and technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some insight real fast? Is okay. So we've been seeing um, I think on Total Recall or was the new one with what's name in it. He had you can dial on your phone and do like that tech technology.
Yeah.
Different movies with technology. Is
Mm-hmm.
that technology in existence? Is just not accessible to the public, or does military get the first training of different things before it's public, or is movies just totally far out there and it's unachievable?
That's a good question. The first thing I was thinking about was going back to like Star Trek, the earlier days. And we used to
Mhm.
watch back then thinking how, wow, that's so amazing. But some of that technology, I would say years out from there, because you can have the imagination, but the technology might not be there to support it all. Um, but I'm not sure definitely on that one, but that's a good one. Um, there might be like pieces of different technologies applicable, because even if you look at GPS, when it evolved, there was like a part of the technology, and a few years later there's another technology add to it, and then it became where GPS, and I think the military did use that first before that became a commercial type product. So sometimes it's even by accidents that things kind of happen. So but you never know exactly. That's a good
Yeah,
question.
because yeah, because we got these little phones right here,
Yeah,
and I
they're
can
computers.
call you guys, and just like that, we're talking to each other, and it
Hmm.
always baffled my brain to think of how did somebody come up with the idea or the technology to
Hmm.
talk into this phone and it reaches you and you're way over here and on another continent or a whole nother state, and we're able to interact like that. And so you work with these type of components, right? When in your designs and stuff.
Well, some of the like the processors that you would see in phones might be used in defense applications, because they build processors to, because a lot of the military apps, we have temperature range that are beyond the commercial range. So there are some chips that are built for that. But a lot of our satellite provides a lot of that data link communication that you're referring to. So that enables, like you said, how can I go from this point to all the way halfway across the world and be able to have that communication link? So that's where our
Mm.
SATCOM comes into play.
Satcom.
Yes, satellite communications. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole lot.
All right, thank you.
It's a whole
Thank
lot
Yeah.
you.
out there.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. A lot of
Well,
technology.
one of the things that and I was just listening to you guys have this back and forth, and I can appreciate the mindset that it takes to try to absorb all of that different information. The language is a whole different language. The understanding is a whole different understanding. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
in any profession, you have to get the lingo down, you have to get the understanding down to be able to even know, just like you were just saying CENTCOM, and you just refer to it in a different way. It's just baffles, kind of our mind, because all of that is done through the industry that you're in. These shortcuts, these short words, these acronyms, and all of that
Yeah.
you come up with. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that's something that that must just blows your mind all the time. Have to keep all that stuff in your head when you're talking to somebody, because if you try to say the whole thing out, like, no, just say the 3 words and everybody understands in your industry. So
Yeah.
I have some questions here, and they're going to bounce all over the place, but I'm going to
Okay.
start off by trying to understand the risk that you were talking about, the risk and the level of risk and whatnot. When you said that there is a certain amount of risk that's acceptable, right? So when you
Right.
get that risk, what are you learning from that? If somebody comes in and say, okay, well, I'm going to try to hack into your system, do
Mm-hmm.
you learn something from that person trying to hack into the system, where you say, okay, well, now we can do X, because now we know what they were doing or what they did to get into just the lowest part of our accessibility, where they can get in. How
Mm-hmm.
do you guys manage that? Do you just start creating a whole bunch of new levels of lower risk, and then medium risk and high risk all over again? Or do you just say, okay, well, we know what they did, they'll never get up to my high risk?
Um, I think it's more, there's like agencies out there that are abreast of the different types of vulnerabilities that have been attacked. And they will say, and it would be like on the higher, they will consider that a high priority risk. They're like, because this risk is high, there's a lot of people out there that are hacking and they are attacking that particular high risk. So what you want to do is, we have some software recommendations that you should incorporate into your design so that you will protect your system against that particular high risk, because it's happening so often and there's so many people that can access your system that way or hack your system that way. So that's one way of so those are reported out. I think quarterly you will see reports of, okay, these are the latest vulnerabilities that are out there. Please protect yourself against this one, because they can have access to your system. They can drop malware into your system where they cause it to break your system, actually break down. They can create where the ransomware kind of concept, which we'll hear of recently, where they now have your hardware, your software on hostage, and they said, well, pay up before we give you access back to your system.
Right.
And it's gotten to the point now where they actually have ransomware insurance that you can purchase against that type of crime. So there's like I said, just as much as there's hackers out there trying to impact your system, there's people that are out there to protect your system. And so those are the protectors are producing reports saying, look, this is what you need to be aware of.
Wow. Because recently in the news and in everywhere, we've been noticing that, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's all these other countries that are taking over all the way down to the healthcare industry until certain banks, they're taking over their computers. And then we don't really know that what they've taken, but we do hear about sometimes that they're asking for something for you to get it back, because they've went into your system, they've taken something to where now you can't move through your system anymore because someone has got a lock on it. And it takes maybe the software or the engineer and you guys come up with a way to block, or to break up whatever lock they have on it so the accessibility can come back. But I wondered, in your skill set and what you're doing out there for Cubic, do you guys protect us from those types of things? Do you guys really have that thought process where you guys are thinking about that in everything that you're doing?
Well, company-wide, we have, like cybersecurity departments that protect all the networks inside of the company for the engineers that are developing on the different computer systems so that people can't hack into, your companies and such. When we're building products that we're selling to our military, we build in security also into our system. So it's something that, like you say, you continuously need to be aware of. And security is definitely a high priority because, if you have sensitive data, you don't want that out there. So you have to build in those type of protections.
Yeah, it plays a big part in everything that we're doing. Everything down to the phones or even the internet. When you click on something, you click on it, and all of a sudden you're going, 500 different places. Or the main one that I just got, today that I thought I was going to click on. Somebody said I had some money, and I was like, well, I should click. I should click on it. That's how they get you.
Yes, those little links are like there's something. Yeah, they're fishing for information from you. Just as we're talking about this, my phone, the phone that I have, which I just recently learned they're not providing any more security updates, so I should be getting me a new phone. So that's going to be in my queue.
Well, yeah. We got to. We definitely have to be on top of our phone because we put so much information inside that phone. And we don't even think about it. We just constantly adding more stuff in there. You got your old credit card in there, right? And then you say, oh, well, that credit card is right. Well, I'm going to update it and give them a new credit card. Well, they got two credit cards and both of them got all your information on there. Let me ask you a question in reference to when you were talking about the circuit board, right? Because I know that back in the day, capacitors used to be this big, resistors used to be this, certain size, and then the board used to be a big old board, you solder and all that stuff on it. I used to work in that department a long time ago, so I'm wondering now when you say that these boards are down to 3 inches where they got all this data, all this information in there. What would be the goal for the size of that? Is there something on the horizon that's going to try to make those boards where they're down to a fingernail size, where they can still do the things that you're doing in your industry?
That's a good. I'm not too sure. I would just say, as you're talking about, that 12-inch by 12-inch board down to 3-inch by 3-inch, the chips, and we used to have the resistors that were, the little on the different leads on the end. Now we're down to like chip resistors, real microscopic. You barely can put them on soldered hand. It's, most of it's machine work type activity. So thumbprint, who knows, we probably are heading that way because, if we keep getting smaller, still being able to do all that, the technology in that smaller footprint. But who knows? We might be down to, like I said, the nail size. Very microscopic. Yes.
Yeah, I wonder about that all the time, because I know with the leads on there, we used to put those through the board and then solder them on the other side. It was just I was just for the like, what was I doing? I was doing speakers and amplifiers and stuff like that. So it was a whole mess. So when you're thinking about all of the things that you're doing out there, how do you when the departments you work with outside of the military, is it the FBI, the CIA, and all of those other places that deal with that type of hardware that you have, with the laser and with the components of being able to track each other and know where other people are across the world? How does that is that also a part of the interconnect with your company as well, as far as military and civilian?
No, we don't work in those particular areas. We're just more in training our military. We do some the data links, but most of them, like I said, is for military applications, but we don't work with those agencies per se.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. They have their own way of dealing with a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I like to ask you about is the work that you've done and the hands-on parts of the departments that you've been involved with, and using your skill set to bring about change in those departments, whether it was in creating something or just having the idea and then someone else create it. And what are some of the things you've done that has got your name on it? As far as coming from you and the idea, as far as putting forth the effort, because you're a leader in that,
I think there's like the board designs that I've done, they actually have the drawings indicate who was the designer for a particular board. So I haven't gotten patents per se, but they're more board designs that I've done. There's another thing called Field Programmable Gate Arrays, or FPGAs. And inside of those, they have a language that you program all the connections for the points inside of that device. So I have some of those designs that have my name attached to them. So it's more, I think those are more of the electrical board designs, and the FPGAs more have my name on it per se. When you move more into management, or when you're more of a technical lead or a team lead, I mean, you get recognized when you have encouraged your team to actually meet a major milestone on a program, where you get your designs approved by different agencies. When you have your customer receive the product and they're satisfied with the product because it meets their requirements. So in some of my lead roles, I've led teams to, meet both of those type of milestones. And then, like I said, for my individual contribution, it would be on those board designs or FPGA designs. It would have my name on it.
Wow, wow. That's exciting to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my question would be, how do you feel about it? I mean, what do you mean? Do you go, that's just who I am, or how do you take that? Do you go run out, like yelling and screaming, or do you go out to dinner, or you just know that's what you're about? You already know that that's your skill set. That's what you were trained to do. That's what you're about.
There's been a couple milestones. I think like the one where I said I designed the board, and they have this concept of whether you have jumps or cuts in your board because there's a bad interconnect on your board, or you have to have white wires on top of your board. So when I built that first one, and I thoroughly looked at the design before it went out to the board house, and they built the board and they populated it with all the devices on the board and brought it into the lab, powered it up. Nothing was awry, and was able to see that it functioned the way it was supposed to. Though that was really exciting because there was no changes required for that design at all. Another major milestone, I would say, I finished a design effort. One of the engineers had left the company, and they're like, "Oh, his design hasn't worked." And I took they assigned the design to me. And within a couple of weeks, it was actually working. And so I went back to the lead engineer and I says, well, it's working. And he's like, oh, well, you were able to do? I says, no, it's working. And he was like, oh, so, moments like that, that's what I said. That's where a lot of that satisfaction comes in, where you're focused on what you want to achieve. And then from a paper design to you actually implementing it to you're testing it in the lab and it works. That's really exciting. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that's just being one of those things that people looking at you because they already know that, man. Who did that? Where did it come from? What department was that? And I just want to know. So, how long does it take to design some of the things that you've done? Has it taken a long time, or have you been, you had that education where you start off at a place where a lot of people, are striving to get to? So, where you getting, being in the industry, working at the company, you probably come at your projects with a little bit of better understanding, so that you don't have to be going through a whole bunch of other stuff to figure it out. So do you find that help you, or does it kind of take away from you sometimes?
I believe I like to focus in doing things in a very methodical way. So I always believe that you start off with an understanding of what the requirements are, as opposed to some people that like to okay, we need to do this task, and they just run off and start doing something. And I believe that you should start off, like I said, with the requirements. What am I supposed to do? And then I was like, okay, well, how would I design that particular function? And then after designing it, okay, this is how I would implement it. Maybe that's a schematic for a board layout, or for VHDL, I do block diagrams of how I want to proceed. So after I do all that, then I feel very confident that when the board goes out to be built, that I put in all the design and thought process that was required before actually building the product. Or I know when I go to the lab for the FPGA, the code that I'm going to put inside of that device, I feel confident because I've simulated it and verified that it's supposed to do. So when I get to the lab, I'm expecting it to work. There might be something that interfaces to someone else where maybe there was a disconnect. So me have to make changes on one side or the other. But if you go at it at a pace, I think you have a better chance for success on the end product. So that's my approach.
Well, that's one of those ways that talks about your skill set and your leadership, because you know that's one of those things that you can't just go, willy-nilly, as they say, on a project. You do got to have some order
Right.
So once you go down this order, you're kind of process of elimination, right? You
Mm-hmm.
already know that you went through that, so you don't have to go back. You're constantly moving forward. And so when I think about you moving forward and you designing some boards that has helped, not only the company but has helped the military, and I
Right.
know we've probably mentioned this on part one, is that when you're saving the company money and you're saving them through not only your team
Mm-hmm.
but through your individual work that you're putting down, how does
Mm-hmm.
that all make you feel when they come back to you and they say, well, you know what you did has saved us 20% on parts, and you've eliminated some other parts that we don't need because you have created a design that incorporates some other facet of the parts that we use. So
Mm-hmm.
how does that all come? Is this the same type of feeling you get when you achieve something on your own and you design something where, okay, well, there was no need to fix it, or is it a totally different thing when you're talking about saving money and them coming back to you and say, you know what, you just saved us like $3 million. What? How is that possible? How do you get that? What is the excitement level that comes from that?
Well, it's interesting. I see that example in the like engineering leadership type role. So I was on a project that had mechanical engineers, it had software engineers, it had electrical engineers, and so I promoted. We're going to open dialogue. If there's any issues, bring it to the table, because the sooner we address the issue now, it's cheaper to fix now than it is to fix, as you're saying, later on in the development. So I really encourage people to share, talk about what's going on. You know, the more that we work together, and when we got to the end, like you said, we developed a product under the cost of what we thought it was going to actually take. So it was like the teamwork, where and you have to respect the people on your team, so for them to show you respect also. And so I said, we're all in this together. We have the slogan of one cubic, meaning no matter what part of cubic you're in, we're all part of the one cubic family. And so I really try to promote, it's like, as a team, we need to move forward in a positive way. Like I said, if we have issues, let's address them and let's make a decision of how we're going to move forward. Just don't sit on a decision, because that too holds up the whole team. So if the team sees that you're wanting to move forward, you want to be productive, you want to make a positive impact, you want something that we're all proud of and deliver, and it's working, and the customer is excited about it, then that's one of the best rewards also.
Wow, that's kind of like I don't know, maybe once in my life I saved the company money, and then they said, "Oh, you saved some, but we only saved like $100." We didn't save it no millions of dollars or anything like that. But in talking about all this, we're talking about the military, we're talking about the components, we're talking about the savings, we're talking about your your ability to make an impact on what you're doing. I'd like to ask you about the life savings that you do. When you know that part of what you're building out there with the military is saving lives. It's a big part of making sure people come home to their families, that the components that you're working with is designed to make them be able to be effective in what they're doing, and also keep them safe so they can get home in every aspect of that. How do I know when you see your projects or your some of the things that you're doing out in the field, and then know that it's assisting in people coming back home. Do you
Right.
do you feel that? What is your thought process about when you see that?
I think of, like, for instance, one of the products that we have is called a personal locator system. And this is something that your soldier will have on him. And it's like a transponder. So if he does get grounded somewhere, he will be, transmitting a signal where being an aircraft would pick up that transponder signal. so that they can actually, as you're saying, locate that soldier. So, that's kind of directly to what you're saying. We're actually saving a soldier that's, out where he's not supposed to, well, not so much not where he's supposed to be, but knowing that you're saving him wherever he is at that moment. And then I reflect back to, as I says in the movie Top Gun, how you're training our soldiers, how to do those dogfights, how to do the maneuvers in the sky. So knowing that they're trained for the best so that they too can come back home. Or how we're training our military. They go into different environments, whether it's into buildings, and they're doing all these exercises with the equipment that we provided them, knowing that they will have a better survival rate working in the buildings, working in the field. So it's rewarding. And I think that's why I said, being raised in military, as a military child, knowing that, we're just doing things so that they're better. They're doing their best. And like you said, that they will come back home.
Yeah, that's got to be the blessing to everything you're doing in that industry, because I mean, I pay attention to what's going on overseas. I pay attention to all of the carnage that's going on out there, and I know that it's on our end, we're so sophisticated in our military technology, so to speak. So you are part of creating that technology to make sure that we're one step ahead of our enemies, and then 2 steps ahead of making sure our people come home, because those are the ways that we make a difference. And so I know that I'm thinking about how you're gonna pass all that knowledge down. And if you continue to, like you said before, the new people coming in, you're making sure they understand the basics, you're making sure they understand what's important and how to make an impact, and then creating that foundation for them to know that you can't just go willy-nilly. You got to take things because the end result is bringing everybody back, being able to be ahead of our competition out there as far as being successful. So I really, really, like I said, am so amazed and proud by your, your work, and then the work that you put into it too. I know we were going to talk about another video that you may have and whatnot. I'd like to be able to show that now, if you don't mind.
Well, as I was talking earlier about cybersecurity, and talked about the RMF and how it's a framework to help someone to identify the threats and how they can protect their system. There's other areas that's going on in the cybersecurity that we need protection from, and that's artificial intelligence, or commonly known as AI. And we've kind of seen a lot of that today. They're concerned about its impact in the electoral process. We've seen how people are imitating others. There's some fun things associated with AI. We see on Facebook a lot, but we've seen the negative impacts, like in cyberbullying with AI. We've seen some negative aspects, and we've seen how Congress was having hearings trying to understand how they can protect our young people with the cyberbullying and everything in technology. Then there's, this other area that's they call Internet of Things. And we're back to our smartphones, anything that's connected to the internet. We have the transportation system. We have all these wireless type developments that we have between our smart watches, we have just all these things in our home. It can be the lock systems. We even have appliances nowadays that are connected to the internet. And so this is another major area that's vulnerabilities can attack because it is connected to the internet. And so one of the things that we have to keep in mind wants to ensure that you have the latest security updates that are part of your system. So because we need to protect everything that's connected to the internet. Then there's the cybersecurity maturity model. This is more in the defense area, and they're really just concerned about not secret data, but sensitive data. They want to make sure that people that are working with the DoD, Department of Defense, that they're protecting sensitive data also, in addition to secret data or top secret type data. So they're going to have people that audit different industries to make sure that you're protecting sensitive data, and they will certify you at different levels. But the one thing that's very important about cybersecurity is that each one of us has to do our own part. And this, it's noted, this is cybersecurity starts with you. And this is by the NSA, our National Security Agency, and cybersecurity. So it's telling us, we have to make sure that we're using strong passwords. Keep your software up to date. Like I said, my phone is now needs some help. Think before you click. So that's like those links. We don't want to click on every link. We don't know where it leads to. We have to be careful on clicking on all those emails. Use safe networks. When we go to these restaurants, these open networks, but that means people can maybe openly access your system. So you want to be careful there. And using multi-factor authentication, more than one way. Like on our phones, we have people that put in passwords to open up their phones. So, cybersecurity starts with you. So this is the last of this slide here that talks to this subject. And I think you said you had some follow-on questions for me.
Right. So I guess it's on me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was going to ask you. Okay, so this is kind of over there in left field somewhere. I guess maybe it could be,
I'll
but
follow you. Go
okay.
ahead.
I always have this question, right? I've always thought this. So you're the perfect person to ask this. So in reference to creating the technology, right? So there's all these different theories. So I'm talking about how it even was created. How did we even come with the brain capacity or mentality or the idea? How did it even get into our brain? So now I'm going to dare say this out loud and record it. What is it? Alien technology? Is it some kind of divine angel that to bless somebody with it? What are the origins? I guess that's what I'm saying. What if what are the origins? How was this technology even created? I mean, and for you to be creating it now, I mean, you probably had to study off that to how everything works. So how was it even created? How are they even doing all this?
That's interesting because I think of this gentleman at work. Will be in the lab testing, and the system something's not working. And so he says, "Oh, put it on the oscilloscope." They put it on the oscilloscope, and he just looks at it, and he said, "Oh, you have that bit flipped or something like that." And we just look at him like, "How in the world can you just look at that screen and determine exactly where the problem is?" So I've always had the mindset that there's people's minds are built differently. People's minds have their strengths and weaknesses. Some people's minds' insights are working differently than others. Because I said we're all blessed, are gifted with different gifts, ourselves. And so the things that I see that are more natural and more intuitive, someone else might see as just a foreign language. Likewise, something in their strength, when I look at it, it's just total foreign to me. So when I look at technology as a whole, I think there's just certain mindsets that are kind of built that way, where they see things that other people just do not see. And they will see ideas that other people don't see. And I even think of like people that work in the music industry, how they see beats, how they see music that other people just don't see. So I think it's just how we're gifted is how technology fits more in that person's mindset.
Okay. So that's like saying that everybody is given the same tools, but not everybody uses them the same way. And that's our difference in people who strive ahead with education and those who lack or don't even make it through school or something like that, right?
Well, I would say the education helps enhances that skill. That's something that's easy for you, is how I would put it. Because I would say we're all, I would say that we all have our own basket, and I won't look in your basket trying to figure out how I can be more of you. It's like you're blessed with certain skills and gifts and knowledge and insight that are made uniquely for you. And so I just envisioned that the education aspect, since I knew I liked math and science, and I take those classes, and so math and science is more something that's more intuitive for me. I can see more in that direction. So like people with music, they just hear music all the time. They're just gifted in that area, is how I look at it. And that's just my opinion.
No, that's good. That's okay. Because I mean, there was just I wasn't expecting to get a direct kind of like, okay, like a, it's you answered it, but I just always answer that question, like, who was the first person? How did we come from, rocks and, smashing the rocks to knowing that we can compress them and we can get material out of them. And now you're making that material into something else. Now you got wires. Now you got these boards. Then you got these little, how did that even happen? But aside from that, uh, that to me that's either some kind of that's way out there. I'm reaching out there though, but
Hey,
something it got to be more than just. It's a blessing. I mean, it's just some people are just more blessed with abilities, I guess we'll call it. Um,
just have
but
that in.
aside from that, okay. So let me ask you this, and then this
Yeah.
we're gonna move along. Let me see. As a director, right? Because your position
Mhm.
is director now, right?
Correct.
Okay. As a director, how do you encourage innovation in your organization in the areas of process improvement and technology?
Well, the group that I have right now, it's about 22 people in my group. It ranges from student interns to senior principal type engineers. Um, we used to have a program where they would like a where you would submit innovative ideas. They would have a team that would evaluate it, and they would have financial reward. And then they would have like a day of innovation where people would present their ideas, and it was like go around and see what people are thinking of how they can improve products at Cubic, or try to think of ways that we can take a product we have and use it in a commercial application or a different application. So I've always encouraged my staff to submit ideas, um, be a part of the innovation effort. Presently, I have one engineer. He just loves coming up with innovative ideas. So what I've encouraged him to do, I says, I will set up some lunch and learns, and have people who have different ideas, invite different technical managers so that they can come and listen to some of the ideas that people have. So I really want to encourage them, to think outside of the box, as you're saying, being innovative. And that's how I encourage my team to do that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Keith.
Yes, great. I mean, I think that's something that we need to
Absolutely.
be applauding. That you've coming up with the ideas of how to create an environment for people who have these ideas, so they don't
Hmm.
feel left out. Like
Right,
people have ideas and then they feel like they're not heard. So in
right.
that case, then you're missing out on something. So a
Hmm.
leader, a director, or someone that's in charge of others have to find a way to allow them to express that without,
Right,
and I guess that would give you, they would like you more because now they feel like they're being heard. My boss is like
right.
saying, okay, well, I'm creating a lunch for you to bring those ideas. And and
Hmm.
and, and I think that's just like so important in
Hmm.
that industry. And
Yeah.
what Razak is talking about, where's all this coming from? How are these things being developed? And really
Hmm.
it's collaboration, right? It's
Right.
everybody coming up with these ideas and
Hmm.
pulling little information from there and little information from there. You never
Right.
know that the intern that's coming in is coming in with all kinds of energy exploding
Right.
out of their brain trying to say they have all these ideas. So you never know if
Hmm.
that person has got something that's new to the person that's been there for 20 and 30 years.
Yeah.
They, oh wow, what do you think? Man, you know what? I didn't even think of that. So It's just
Yeah.
that is the component of what is happening. Don't you think so?
Yeah, because I was thinking when I have brainstorm sessions with my group, I tell them no idea is a bad idea, you know. So it's like say whatever's on your mind. And like you say, when you hear something from someone, it might spark this idea in your head. It's like, oh, I never thought about that. Or how can we add to that concept? So it's yeah, it's like you say, you got to be open with people and say, you know, we welcome all ideas, you know, bring them to the table. You never know what we can take a little piece of that, like you said, and collaborate it with something else and create a whole new product or new concept. So
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key.
yeah.
Well, a couple of questions I have, and then I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
try to get into a little things. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about COVID. You know, we didn't really talk about COVID and how it
Mhm.
affected everything in your industry, and what were some of the downfalls of COVID, where you guys wasn't able to be at work and wasn't able to do a lot of the interaction that you normally would do to be creative. How did that affect you guys? And then what were some of the things that came out of it that you guys learned from?
I think the COVID, like you said, everyone had to work from home. There's a few people that went in because if you're actually have hardware in the lab, you know, you need to go in, but you have to keep yourself separated from other people because you never know. If someone got sick, you know, you have to report everybody had to be tested to confirm, you know, who is or is not impacted by the COVID. Um, the biggest hit I think that we had in our industry is that getting electronics. And I think that applied to various industries that use, you know, micro circuits of any any kind. So they were delayed in getting parts. So delay caused, you know, delay in actually building boards and testing boards. So it impacted that pipeline from purchasing to actually the engineers being able to verify their design. Um, Working hybrid, you know, the Zoom meetings were helpful for opening lines of communication, but sometimes it's better that you're all in the same room, but we weren't able to actually do that at that time. So I think it slowed down the process because some of the relationships between people being coexisting in a lab was challenging. I think lessons learned now as a corporation, we've evolved to a hybrid environment where there's so many days you're in plant, so many days you're out of plant. That's an option for individuals. There's some that like to be in every day, which is, you know, your choice. Um, what we've learned today, I would say, is for like the newer people that came into the company during that time span, we now actually have the interpersonal interaction with them. Um, so there's people, yeah, that were hired and I had Zoom meetings, and then when I actually met them when in plant, it's like, oh, you're the person. So a lot of that intercommunication skills, I think, were hindered and improved now more so after COVID. The good thing is people do like the flexibility, the hybrid work schedule. So that's been a plus for a lot of people. Um, so I think overall, a lot of industries have evolved in that direction, knowing that people can work from home, and the company didn't shut down, so it was still moving. But I would say there were some areas that could have been more productive if we didn't have the COVID. So
That's for
Well, I
sure.
think about that. I think about this question that I have, but I understand that how the COVID has impacted so many industries and trying to deal with the home working, and a lot of
mhm.
people got comfortable with that process. And then,
Yeah.
as you hear on the news, a lot of big companies are, you know, like at Tesla and different places, they're saying no more. Y'all bring y'all butt to work and come on
Yeah.
inside. So,
Hmm.
what I like to ask you is, you know, when you work from home and then
Uh-huh.
you go into work, what is that like? Because sometimes what I've heard is that people don't, you know, treat you different. You know, you work at home and then you come in on a Thursday, you get in the office for a few days. People, you
Uh-huh.
don't know everybody there. You're not as in the loop, as they say, because you're
Hmm.
working at home. How do you transition from that home 2 days a week, or being a hybrid person, or how do the people you work with that are normally not at work or working from home, and then all of a sudden you see them, are they different, or how do you guys work, communicate, or what's the relationship like when you're dealing with people that are not in all the time?
Well, one of the concepts that was brought forth is with the hybrid schedule, that people would have the same days off and the same days on. So like you said, most everybody would be there on most, 3 out of the 4 days or 3 out of the 5 days. So that was one way of not looking different, like you're saying, from other people, because everybody's kind of there on the same days. It's funny, today I was walking through the door and a gentleman I haven't seen maybe since COVID, and he's like, "Sylvia, you're still here." So there's that part of it, because people don't see you as often. But I think the Zoom meetings kind of really help. They fill in a lot of that void. And so people do see in that aspect. So I think it works. And people actually meeting with some of the younger engineers, they really love the flexibility. So
I can imagine they do. I got to get to stay home and be in my PJs from the waist down. It's good.
Well,
I guess what I like to do now, since we did a lot of your talking about the business and everything, what I like to try to do is talk about the awards and the the honors that you have, because I with all of the different programs that you're involved in, and all of the different memberships that you are associated with, can you talk a little bit about the ones that you're most proud of, and also talk about some of them that you find to be challenging?
I would say one of the awards that I guess there was a few of them, but the latest one was the San Diego County of Engineers. I was recognized with the Outstanding Engineering Leadership Award, and that was nominated by somebody that was in the National Society of Black Engineers Professionals, San Diego chapter. And 2 years prior to that, the San Diego chapter also recognized me with a legacy award based on my achievements in helping the community, working with young people, working with in the elementary, high school level, and to the collegiate level, and working with professionals. And they basically acknowledge my contributions in those areas. So to me, those are rewarding for the awards that you get for making a difference. Is what I guess I reflect it as. There have been other awards that I got from work. Like, for instance, they nominated me for the Twin Award, which is the tribute to women in industry. And also they encouraged me for the LAMP, participate in that education area that was dealing with leadership and managerial program. Even Lead San Diego, I enjoy, with leadership education awareness program. And my company actually supported me participating in those programs. They were about a year-long program. And they provided me with like the leadership skills. They enhanced the skills that I had from previous experiences. So I think those have been valuable in my career life thus far. But I think the awards getting for making a difference, I think, is the most rewarding to me. I think there was another part of that question, I do believe.
Yeah, you are members. You have that membership of a lot of places that you're on the board. Of a lot of these places. And then one of the other ones that I was curious about was the under 40, because I was a part of an under 30. But tell me a little bit about the under 40.
Once again, in San Diego, they had a friend of mine that was another organization equivalent to like the National Society of Black Engineers. And she was my co-president, I would say, in that engineering organization. And she nominated me for the 40 under 40. And actually, I have that posted on my wall today with me and many other faces. And she also nominated me for another award I can't think of right now. I'm sorry.
You have so many.
I know. But a lot of the organizations that I, become involved in, with my undergraduate, I went to MIT, so they have a educational counselor, and in that capacity, I actually interview students that are applying to go to MIT and submit that as part of the report. So it's not only your education that you provide, but you as a person and what your values and stuff. And so that was part of the interview process. So that was valuable to be a part of that. They even had the Black alumni at MIT, so I was a board member for that at one time. And I've done, the other award was the San Diego Regional Women's Conference. So I was one of the Women of Distinction finalists in San Diego. So that was the other award that I was nominated for. Always been involved in organizations that deal with the Council of Black Engineers and Scientists. And once again, it's because we're reaching out to young people, showing them a face as someone that's actually working in that industry, and to encourage them, to let them know that's an option that they can actually pursue. So that's something I always would like to be involved in. There's been a couple articles that I've won that was presented, and I was featured in the Voice and Viewpoint for Black Women's Month, the month of March. Cubic has nominated me, displayed me again in various magazines for Women's Month. And just, like I said, it's all about encouraging women to look at engineering and science as an option, a direction that they can go in. I think that's it.
Superstar.
Well, I'm telling you, you're a star, man. I like to see some of those magazines that you're into, so I like to read the write-up. So I definitely want you to send that over so we make sure that that's a part of everything that we're doing here for sure. So a couple of things I have left to ask you about is that, I'm proud of the fact that a lot of these organizations that you're involved in are based on dealing with people in our community, in the Black community. It's the Voice and Viewpoint has been around for a long time in San Diego. And I remember when it first started as a little small place, and it's grown, it was just a small little paper. Now it's all colorful. A lot more people are in it, and so I am proud of that too. So I really think that you being a part of that and being seen, and people know who you are, and it's just it's so important, and so I'm so proud of you for staying true to that and attached to that out there in the community. So tell me a little bit about what insight that you can give our listener on the engineering industry and the commitment to something you believe in, and for you it was the commitment early on in math, so how do you or what would you tell our audience about that?
Like I said, you're always believe that your attitude would determine your altitude, whether it be in the technology fields or any field of your choice. But when you decide to move into the technology, know that you'll be challenged. Know that things do not remain the same. So have an open mind to seek out the new ideas, the new concepts, the changes that are going on. Know that you're choosing a path where you won't be bored, definitely, because there's just too much going on. If you find yourself that, there might be some industries where you feel like you can't move, make a change. There's options out there for you. There's networking that you can do with people to find out what are other opportunities that fit within your educational background. Or maybe you need to go get education in a different area to complement what you have to move into a new area. Like we said, cybersecurity is a new area. It's a hot area right now. Many people are pursuing it. There's lots of opportunities because once again, things are changing and you want to be a part of that change. Stay focused. Know that you can make a difference. Know that basically you're doing your part to make a difference, and be proud of what you achieve. Know that you can achieve, and just put one foot in front of the other and head in the direction that you want to go. One thing, like I said, with Cubic, they encourage us to reach out into the community. And so for like next month, we're actually hosting the National Society of Black Engineers monthly meeting, and definitely invite you to come out and be a part of that meeting and learn a little bit more about the organization and Cubic. I don't know how I got there. Sorry.
I would love that. If you pass it in the honors, can you? I don't know. Can you pass the tickets too, or how do you get in there?
Actually, what we do is we have a visitors list, and so if I get your name, I make sure people are on the list, and then we just escort you to the room to be a part of the meeting. So.
Oh yeah, please do that. You know, me and Razak, if not, we definitely will have an attendee on behalf of us. If not, you know, for sure. I think Razak got one more question he'd like to ask you before we go on to one more question from myself.
All right.
Okay. There's something that you had mentioned earlier, and about the interaction. Now, I was writing this down. I was trying to catch you on it. Let me see. And it pertains to like because I've dealt with the family readiness group for the military, for the Army, and you have soldiers that go there and they lose limbs. You know what I mean? So, and then they have all these different little robotics and stuff like that, and you know, synthetic types of stuff for all these things they're doing for the soldiers.
Right.
So my question is I don't know if you touched on this, but is there more AI implications to interaction with their weapons, or maybe the vehicles that you guys are developing now?
Not in my area where I'm working. I'm not that familiar with it. The only thing we do have training where like you wear the visors, the virtual training. So I guess in that aspect, a little AI is involved, but not at this Cubic division right here in town.
Okay.
I don't have that. But it's kind of interesting. You mentioned that when I was in school, that was going to be my option to go into bioelectrical. And like you said, it would have been involved with dealing with the body and electronics. And
I'm always looking at the new things that they're doing with artificial intelligence and the robots and stuff like that, and they're becoming more human-like. They're having more interaction, and I'm thinking, at what point in time is these movies going to become reality? You know what I mean? And you're going to be able to talk, or interact, because like my laptop right here, like I can type in stuff, or I could put it on microphone and talk to the computer and ask it questions, and you got all these different things, and it actually generates an answer for me. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking like, okay, well, now that I seen something the other day. They had, I think it was in Japan, they had a guy who was making a robot that that talks to you and all this type of stuff. And I'm thinking like, at what point does military incorporate such a thing to where, okay, I know they have like the little bomb things that go out there and do. They got all these different little technologies, but when is it actually almost like a human interaction? You know what I mean? Like
in the movie I, Robot?
Like you're talking to.
Yes.
He's out there right now, people. He's been out there for a minute.
Hey, that's how things happen. You just imagine it. It's like, I never thought about that. That's where it all begins. That thought. That brain thought.
Razak is out there, boy. He's trying to find that. He's gonna find that interaction.
He has those brain cells are connecting ideas together.
Man. Hey, you
I was
said
thinking
no.
about the
All
goggles.
ideas are welcome. We're
There you
Yeah,
brainstorming
go.
right now.
There you
yeah.
go. That's where it
What
all
about the
began.
goggles though? You're talking about the goggles because I remember a while back my sister tried out the Apple, glasses
Oh yeah.
with the
Uh-huh.
with
Oh
the
yeah,
internet. You can see, do everything from that. Is that
Hmm.
something that's you guys do with the military and their
Yeah, they
goggles,
do.
making that
Hmm.
easier for them to be able to operate through that,
Hmm.
through the goggles?
Yeah. And so they have some of the goggles for like the virtual exercises also. Just like because we've seen like the gaming where you put the goggles on, you kind of see the room and you're doing different exercises in the room. So they do that for military training also. So.
All right, so it's kind of like it's kind of along the same line.
Mhm.
One question I have for you, I'm going to ask
Okay.
this last kind of question for you is that looking ahead, okay, what excites you, in the future? What are some of the things in your industry that excites you going forward that is going to be something that's going to, I don't know if it's going to blow up, but it might just be something that, in your industry just excites you because that it's coming forward. It's big things that are happening in your industry. What are some of those things and what excites you about it?
Let's see. You brought up the concept of we have UAVs that are um, unmanned UAVs, and it makes you wonder: can you have unmanned like tanks and different types of other ground vehicles that can be used in war settings, military settings? I mean, even like you talked about the iRobot. Well, that was my concept. But if there's military troops trained that way, what would that mean? That means less
Right.
American lives, out on the front line. Um, it's a way that less casualties in war. I'm hoping. Actually, I hope there's even less war that we have to deal with in general. But we're protecting people's lives. That's. I just think if there's a way where if we have to be in conflict, we don't have to impact people directly. So, what does that world mean?
Is
And,
is that's like stuff on the horizon that you think about?
no,
You mentioned something that just kind of made me think it would save so many lives. It would save so many
yeah,
That's what I was
lives.
asking you.
yes, I know.
It would save so many lives
Unmanned
if you could do that.
armed tanks.
Yes,
Yeah,
You're
it
just
would
talking
just
to it. Yeah, go wipe them out over there. Go take them out. And then it's
right.
just
They
like,
have,
okay, and it drives
they
over
got,
there.
yeah, you have GPS, so you can remote, drive the vehicle to said locations. Um,
Okay. You
I'm,
see? Yeah, all right. They doing it
oh,
then,
that's got to be happening. Well, they already.
I
I
don't
think they're
know.
doing that. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think if
aware
they
of
got
it,
the
but I'm
well,
unaware of it. I'm just
if they
thinking
got the
out loud.
airplane, if they got the drone, they,
Yeah, they have the
they got the
unmanned.
Oh yeah.
drone, right?
Hmm.
So they got to have yeah, yeah. So they're breaking it down. They're gonna bring it down to the ground level,
The ground
and
troops.
start
Yep.
drone. You're gonna have drone tanks. You're gonna have drone
Yeah.
humans. Gonna be out there marching with guns and shooting, and we ain't never gonna have to touch nothing. But China's gonna do it. I'm telling you, China's already working on it. So hey,
Yeah.
Sylvia, anything else that you would like to say that we haven't brought forward on this edition of part 2 that you would like to get out there ahead of us right now?
Well, I just first of all want to thank the both of you for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself, being able to, like I said, maybe encourage someone to think about technology as being a career choice for themselves. Um, let them know it's possible, it's achievable, and they can make a difference in this area. There's so many opportunities that people can get involved in. They probably just aren't aware of what is out there. So vehicles like this allows us to, share that with people and giving them an option. giving them something that they can dream to aspire to be when they grow up. So thank you again for this opportunity.
I know. Thank you. I mean, I am so grateful that you taking the time to come on the KF&JF podcast. I am so happy that we're able to talk about everything that you do, and everything about you is so special, and I'm just excited to even have the even be in the realm of you and hopefully I'll see you again at the next pop-up, and we could talk on the side, of this. But I am just like, again, proud of you. I think you have so much to offer everybody that's listening to this podcast and out there, to learn about math, to learn about engineering, to learn about commitment, to learn about what it takes to be there, when you're, for your family, for your friends, for your community, for your job. Everything that you have showed up for is so important. And then the other part that I'm really proud of, that you're a strong Black woman, and that's something that we need to, as men, we need to honor that. We need to make sure we showcase that. We need to make sure that we don't let you get away and not put you out there to shine, because in doing that, we not only help our youth, we show them someone they can look up to. They don't have to look up to the people on TV. They don't have to look up to the stars out there. They got people right there in their neighborhood that's doing the work that is that you need to know about. And I'm hoping and praying that every time your video comes up and every time I talk to people about it, I even told my teacher, because I'm in school trying to get my little education. I told my teacher, I said, I know an engineer and she's blah blah blah. So I sent him to watch your video. So it's just one of those things that I think I can't talk enough about. That is we're happy about. So I like to give Razak the last word on that, and maybe he can let you know how excited he is, because he seems to be smiling the whole time.
I just, military, military, just I just like the fact that you're sort of, as you said earlier, you're saving lives. I mean, at some point in time, hopefully, war isn't in the cards, but I mean, at the same time, you have the other countries, other military power, their groups or whatnot, whatever you want to call them, across the ocean and different continents, they're building their armies up too. So I mean, it's almost like a race, and we're the only ones on the planet. So what are you going to use all these weapons for? I didn't want to bring that up, but I mean, it's a lot of things. Is you know, I think he asked you before, where you're making weapons to save lives, but at the same time, I mean, at what point in time do we address the thing of what is the point of it all if we're trying to reach a state of where, and I have I got military a background somewhat, what I mean, and then I just even back then I used to ask the guys, what I mean, like, as we go and train and stuff, and shoot, do the little PT tests and stuff and all these different things that they say you have to have certain physical things for. And I think of when I look at like I was saying, robotics and the AI thing, what I mean, like in movies, and how the theory is projected into further, how should I say, destruction, and the defense of our nation against other nations, and I just wonder, how technology is involved, and you've been able to, expose that for us and give us shine some light on the other side of the door of that thought. We nobody really knows what goes on to making the weaponry. I mean, what because a lot more. I think I think what you call it, the what you call the Rifle Association, they have the more things where when you hold the gun, what I mean, they're starting to do more fingerprints, more locks on it,
Oh
and
yeah,
all those safety things,
yeah.
and and they're
Authentication.
starting to do
Yeah.
all these things. But at the ultimate thought of it all is that we're making something that's I don't know. I want to say it's in a defense of us, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it's like a race to of annihilation of our enemies. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
enemies is
yeah.
only
You want
saying,
to win? Yeah.
yeah, we want to win. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
but at the same time, why is it that we have to push it this far? It's just like because I've done a little history search, and when they had the napalm bombs and atomic bombs and dropping these
Hmm.
bombs on them, and you know what I mean, and I just be thinking like, at what point in time do we all just sit down and have a discussion of saying I agree to disagree? You guys are over there. Hey, you guys, what you
Hmm.
guys are doing is fine. Like the thing in Ukraine now. I don't want to get into some get into something right there, but a lot of times I like to think, what I mean, when you're in America, the United States,
Hmm.
and this is coming from somebody who has supported our soldiers, and cheered them on too at the same time,
Hmm.
but at the same time I question, policing, the whole rest of the world, what I mean, and dealing with the family readiness group, a lot of people always had the question of why did you have to send them over there? Why
Hmm.
did they have to go? It's not our fight. You guys are just, what I mean, saying, hey, somebody's doing something over there, and we're going to send our troops over there to go fight and defend them, and they're on foreign soil, and
Hmm.
and they're coming back with a lot of caskets, basically,
Yeah.
and I think, right now, as I talk to you, and listening to what you're saying, that you will make a difference, and given that is your objective ultimately, is to make sure that the soldiers come back. What I
Right.
mean, and that's
Definitely.
that is commendable. And a lot of people don't know what goes into, even the military mindset. So
Mm.
you know, um, I guess I'll leave it right there. It just
Well,
here right there.
like we said before, it, it's just one of those things that it's when you're in the industry of electrical engineer, you're creating things that it's on both sides of the world. It's good and there's bad, and the military has good and bad things that they have to do. So the only thing
Right.
that we can do is to try to be as efficient in our jobs to make sure that we're honoring the goal, right? And the goal is
Hmm.
to bring our soldiers home, and
Right.
you're doing that, Sylvia. And I thank you so much for everything you're doing, and
Hmm.
I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yep.
So
Okay.
thank you again for coming on
Same
KF
here.
and JF
Okay. I
Podcast.
enjoyed it. Thank
Talk to you
you.
soon.
Hmm.
All right.